to this national effort. Over the past few weeks, I have held several meetings with different professionals of business interests in order to mobilize our nation towards this new campaign. The results have been salutary, and I'm quite confident we are geared for better outcomes. Contact tracing comes hard on the heels of testing and treatment. We need to account for all persons who would have come in contact with all infected persons. Experts tell me that an ideal situation is devoting one contact tracer to every 4 infected cases. Tracing and isolation limits the multiplier effect of the pandemic. It also allows early treatment, which lightens the burden on our facilities of care. We have to ginger up our infection surveillance systems for speedy detections and contact tracing again. Government is addressing this critical area. Thirdly, as I address you, more of our health institutions are being repurposed to handle the pandemic. The goal is to increase the number of beds for COVID-19 cases in anticipation of increased infections. We have to have on standby more and more well-equipped and stocked facilities which are competent enough to deal with any upsurge in infections. We require more health personnel who can discharge their already onerous care and cure duties, knowing full well that they are well provided for and protected. This means adequate personal protection equipment, PPEs, so we do not lose our committed health cadres while in the line of duty. Government will stop at nothing to ensure our institutions are fully equipped and stocked, and in ensuring our health personnel are fully kitted and motivated. From the foregoing, 3 objectives become apparent. 1, we must flatten and then arrest the infection curve. 2, we must raise the line of tests through expanded testing. And 3, we must see more COVID-19 recoveries so our health institutions are not overburdened. Fellow Zimbabweans, the 3-week national lockdown, which has been underway, ordinarily expires at midnight. Government has reviewed the situation obtaining in the country, around us, in the region, and worldwide. As I have already indicated, incidences of infection in our country to date have risen to 25. This figure comprises both imported and local transmissions, with the trend clearly showing that more and more we are now dealing with in-country transmissions. We are also facing a new situation where more and more of our citizens are coming back home, including from countries heavily affected by the COVID-19 pandemic. This presents an unavoidable but growing threat to our nation, as we must accommodate all our returning citizens. The country is yet to meet the conditions for lifting the lockdown that were recently announced by World Health Organization. Key among these conditions is the need to have in place health systems that are capable to test, isolate, treat, and trace every contact. The need to lift the lockdown or restrictions is when the transmission of the virus is fairly under control. As I have also already indicated, worldwide cases of infections continue to gallop, with the World Health Organization cancelling against relaxing lockdowns currently adopted by almost all countries of the world. Guided by these realities and to allow ourselves greater leeway to prepare for worse times, which are likely ahead, government has decided to extend with immediate effect the national lockdown by a further 14 days. That means the national lockdown, which would have expired at midnight, stands extended by another 2 weeks up to 3rd May 2020. It has been a very hard decision my government has had to take reluctantly, but it has been a necessary and unavoidable decision in the circumstances in which we find ourselves. We need to maintain the same level of national and self-restraint as we have shown in the 3 weeks which have gone by, all in the interest of our nation and of ourselves individually. Government is acutely aware of the need to keep the economy running, albeit at subdued levels. With this objective in mind, government has decided to allow the mining sector to resume or scale up operations, even then within parameters set by the World Health Organization regarding social distancing and other public health safety measures. I have now directed the Ministries of Health and Child Care and that of Mines and Mining Development to work closely to ensure the workforce in the mining sector is immediately screened and tested ahead of resumed operations. Further, to the extent possible, I have directed that workers in the mining sector remain within the precincts of their accommodation at workplaces for the duration of the lockdown. In respect of our manufacturing sector, I have further directed that limited operations resume in the national interest, but mindful of the public health safeguards as already announced. Inspectors will be visiting all operations to ensure these safeguards are being strictly adhered to. This reprieve covers our manufacturers in our informal sector and SMEs as well, who have to use these 2 weeks to rebuild their capacities and stocks. The responsible ministry is also directed to work closely with the health authorities to ensure there is order and safety in that sector, so critical to livelihoods. As government, we continue to explore ways of mitigating the impact of the lockdown on all businesses, big and small, so our economy recovers more rapidly after the pandemic. Essential services continue as before, operating within designated times and parameters as already announced. I am happy that the Department of Social Welfare has begun rolling out support schemes and measures targeting vulnerable families throughout the country, These measures, which include cash disbursements, will be fine-tuned and intensified so needy families are supported throughout the period of the national lockdown. Our security arms will step in to assist, including facilitating essential movements of our citizens during this difficult period. I shall be visiting a few more places, both in towns and cities and in our rural areas, to see firsthand how families are coping and what extra measures we need to take as government to make the burden of the national lockdown bearable. Fellow Zimbabweans, the Second Republic is a listening, a caring dispensation. We continue to listen to any suggestions you might have as citizens, so we make our responses to COVID-19 both effective and bearable. Once again, I would like to thank you all for the high level of self-discipline we have shown in the 3 weeks we have been under national lockdown. I trust and hope that this will continue for the next 2 weeks, after which government will announce any appropriate way forward, of course guided by realities on the ground. Together, we will win against the pandemic. I wish you all and your families good health. I thank you.
Secretary, are you happy? Okay. Sorry?
There's no need for them to be happy.
That was His Excellency President Mnangagwa addressing the nation on the status of the lockdown. And some of those talking points, of course, the 21-day lockdown, which was supposed to expire midnight of today, has been extended, and it will be extended with immediate effect. But let's cross back as he takes a question and some of those questions from the media.
Tobacco auction floors are going to be decentralized countrywide to minimize crowding. And in the process, they are going to observe the measures such as social distancing, and also the question of accommodation will be regulated as to who comes and which day, because then the areas of concentration will be limited in terms of the decentralization and the spread.
Thank you, sir. Any more questions?
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
That was just part of the question and answer segment from the media to His Excellency President Mnangagwa, as he has announced that with immediate effect there will be an extension of the lockdown. Of that extension, we do know, of course, the 21-day lockdown, which took effect March 30, was supposed to expire today, but His Excellency the President has extended it, and it will be by a further 14 days, which sees us taking it to the 3rd of May. Of course, His Excellency has said that they will be monitoring the situation on the ground to assess further measures, as well as assessing the situation on the ground. And this has been our live broadcast on the status of the lockdown, as we took you through that address by President Mnangagwa, that State of the Nation address. It's pleasant viewing on ZBC TV.